because of the way that Star Wars is structured leading into episode 4, he can't do what probably would have made the most sense if they didn't have to abide by the rules of those movies. A friend of mine got me this Darth Vader, like 3D printed. It's for like holding a toothbrush or something. I don't know. It's pretty cool though. So Obi Wan Kenobi just wrapped up on Disney Plus, and I have a lot of thoughts on this series, some positive, some negative, and just overall what I took away from it. Let's discuss. Everything Darth Vader related was fantastic. This is one of the most iconic characters in movie history, and I feel like they pretty much nailed it. Every scene that Darth Vader was in, he was shot in a really terrifying way. His powers were off the charts. They made him seem so incredibly overpowered. It was fantastic. I loved the lightsaber fights. I loved Hayden Christensen in the suit. I loved hearing James Earl Jones again. For a character that has been killed off like 50 years ago, it is so cool to see what they were able to do with Darth Vader in this show. And I guess this is a good time to mention, full spoilers ahead. I'm going to spoil a lot of the things that happen in this show. So if you don't want spoilers, go ahead and just skip to the end of the video, leave a like and subscribe. I think a lot of us were really waiting to see how Darth Vader is going to be portrayed on this show. I think the best portrayal of him, at least in movies, was probably the end of Rogue One, which is still to this day one of the greatest ending scenes in any Star Wars film that I've ever seen. It was awesome. And in this movie, I think this is about as close as we've gotten to Rogue One Darth Vader. He was absolutely badass. He was terrifying. The scenes in episode 3 where he's going through the village, just force snapping people's necks and killing kids. I mean, he's terrifying. How can you not love this guy? And on the other side of that, I really liked what they did with Obi Wan Kenobi. I'm someone who likes seeing different versions of characters throughout time. And so seeing an Obi-Wan who was way more run down, significantly weaker, at least at the start of this show, it was really cool. Mostly we've seen him when he was young, and then we saw him when he was super old. And, you know, they've done like the TV show cartoons and whatnot. But in the film world, we've only seen 2 versions of Obi-Wan, which is like super young, super old, where he's like incredibly weak. So this was a really cool version to see just kind of how he was navigating throughout his time where he cut himself off from the Force and was just in a more weakened state, how he transitioned back to regaining a lot of his abilities and just his overall confidence in himself. Considering the name of the show is Obi Wan Kenobi, and my 2 biggest positives from the show are Obi Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, that's a great start. Unfortunately, this show sort of ends up being a mixed bag, because it's not just about Obi Wan Kenobi, it's also about the Inquisitors, and one specific Inquisitor, Reva. And I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the end of the show here, because I think they totally botched Reva. This is a character that I was enjoying in the beginning of the show because I played Fallen Order. I love the Inquisitor stuff. I know they're also in some of the cartoons as well, which is really cool to see them make it to the sort of big screen. At least this is probably the most mainstream the Inquisitors will get. Not gonna lie, I feel like a lot of people are not gonna like Inquisitors after this. The portrayal of the Inquisitors in this show sort of leaves a lot to be desired. Specifically with Reva, who is apparently immune to being stabbed through the stomach twice. Once when she was a literal child, and again, both times by Darth Vader, who I guess is just bad at stabbing people. I don't know. She comes back in episode 6 of this show and is seemingly fine. No back to tank, no... it doesn't seem like very much time passes between when she's stabbed and when she like goes to kill Luke Skywalker. Why was that happening? What was her motivation for killing Luke Skywalker? In the 5th episode of the show, and this is why I think the show is sort of a mixed bag, she has this whole discussion with Obi-Wan where she decides to work with him to try to betray Darth Vader. And then she goes to kill the kid that Obi-Wan was trying to protect? This is like, what? Maybe I missed something, but the motivation, strange. The Inquisitor stuff got sort of weird. So this sort of leads into some of the negatives about Obi Wan Kenobi, because this show was a little uneven. Episode 3, specifically, is one of the best, most exciting episodes I've seen of any Disney Plus TV show. I thought episode 3 of this show was fantastic. My only worry was that it was so good that it sort of felt like they blew their load, and after that it was kind of tough for them to catch up to the adrenaline that episode 3 provided, because episodes 4 and 5 sort of whatever, and then by the time you get to episode 6, where in episode 3 Obi-Wan and Darth Vader had already fought once, albeit, you know, Obi-Wan was a little bit overmatched, so it was cool getting to see them fight again in episode 6. But they were cutting between this fight and the fight between Reva and Luke's aunt and uncle, which, if you had to pick one of those to watch for 45 minutes, it would be Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader. Intercutting that fight with a way less compelling storyline is kind of tough to care. It really was. Now, in terms of the Obi-Wan Anakin fight, great fight. He says the line, "I will do what I must." Vader has a point where he has the high ground. Great shout outs to their previous fights. However, this is a thing I worry about sometimes, where Star Wars is stuck in a certain creative issue because George made all these decisions like 50 years ago when the original movies came out, right? Darth Vader's dead. Character was killed off in the 70s. So now you sort of have to maneuver around the fact that this character has to survive to episode 4 when the saga officially starts, I guess. And there were now 2 instances where Obi-Wan has chosen not to kill Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. The first time, it was because he saw Anakin and he felt really bad and he couldn't finish the job. The second time, Darth Vader literally says, "Anakin's gone, dude. He's gone." Also, here's the even weirder thing. In the 3rd episode, Obi-Wan literally saw Darth Vader tear through a village of innocent people and just murder them. Just cold blood murder, force choking, neck snapping, all that stuff. And so he has Darth Vader on his knees, and he basically can't kill him. He's just like, because of the way that Star Wars is structured leading into episode 4, he can't do what probably would have made the most sense if they didn't have to abide by the rules of those movies. It's a little confusing because it becomes sort of hard to justify why Obi-Wan would pass on killing Space Hitler twice, but at the same time, when you've got, you know, episodes 4, 5, and 6 of the movies where Darth Vader has his whole redemption arc, it sort of leads you to have to kind of write yourself into a corner, which is a shame because the fight that they had was fantastic. Overall, I think that this show is a bit of a mixed bag. There were some episodes that worked really well. There were some that kind of dragged. The best parts of this show were Obi Wan Kenobi, and the worst parts were whatever weird Inquisitor Reva storyline they were trying to jam in, which I think, honestly, would have worked fine as its own show. I think it was kind of a weird decision to sort of jam the 2 plots together into a show named Obi Wan Kenobi, because we're kind of all here for Vader and Obi-Wan. Nobody was coming into this show interested in the Inquisitors. I'm curious to see if they do a second season. I don't really know how much more you can milk out of characters that are dead in the movie universe, and I guess we'll sort of see. I think if you're a casual Star Wars fan, you'll enjoy this. I think if you're hardcore, you'll probably have a few more issues with it, just because nobody hates Star Wars more than hardcore Star Wars fans. And overall, I thought it was a decent showing for the first season of Obi-Wan.